children, who was raised to believe that she could achieve anything she put her mind to. She graduated from Jacksonville Public Schools, went on to earn a BS in criminology at Florida State University, and subsequently a master's in public administration from Webster University. She spent her early career as a social worker, and she joined the police force in Orlando. She was at the police academy. She was president of her class, and she earned a reputation as a tenacious, no-nonsense cop. On the force, she served various capacities, and in 2007, she was selected as chief of Orlando Police. She is the first woman to hold that position. And during her 3.5-year tenure as police chief, crime dropped 40%. So, she retired after 27 years at the Orlando Police Department. However, she did not retire from her commitment to public service. You may have heard she's running for Congress, and regarding that, all I can say is, Val, Godspeed. Please join with me in welcoming Val Demmings.
Well, good evening. Good evening. I can tell you it's so good to be here, and I'm so thankful that you all didn't run out on me and you waited for me to get here. Now, I've been told that you were really kind of socializing and enjoying what's in the corner, but whatever kept you here, I'm glad it did. It's an honor to be up here. I want to certainly thank the Lake County Democratic Women's Club. I want to thank the student Democrats for your participation and for being so active, and also want to thank Elizabeth for inviting me, which I'm sure was a little encouragement from you all. So thank you all so very much. Also want to take just a moment, since this is a recognition as we celebrate Women's History Month. In case you all have not heard, it is Women's History Month. We're on the tail end, but I also want to acknowledge Ms. Hamilton and congratulate her for the outstanding work she has done. It is obvious, Elizabeth, that she has a servant's heart. You know, don't have to do it. Most of what she does didn't get paid to do, but she did it anyway. So I know you've already recognized her and given her a resounding round of applause, but let's do it one more time. Yes, I am retired. I'm standing before you as a retiree. But I'm also standing before you as Orlando's 36th Chief of Police. And I know you've heard it, but I'm going to say it again because I do have the microphone for a few minutes and I can say whatever I want. I am the first woman to hold the position in the 137-year history of the Orlando. Say that. Why is it important to say that? Now, I say it not just for Val, but don't get me wrong, Val does enjoy hearing it. I do. But I also say it really as a way of honoring every person who encouraged me, every person who inspired me, every person who believed in me when I didn't have the ability to believe in myself. I also say it to encourage and to motivate and inspire all of you, regardless of how old you are or how young you are. Never give up on your dreams. I also say it finally because, yes, it is Women's History Month, and yes, that is history. I want to talk for just a few minutes today about God's secret weapon. Now, don't get nervous. I'm not getting ready to preach a sermon. I'm not getting ready to preach a sermon, but I do want to talk about the power of women. The power of women. And to the men in the room, thank you so much for being here, because believe me, we cannot be all that we need to be and want to be and can be without you and your support. Ladies, let's give the men in the room. As we embark on this 2012 election, I think you all already know that this is one of the most critical elections that we've seen in a generation. No doubt about that. And when we talk about women and the power of women, I think we all would admit that when women act, good things happen. When women move, good things happen. And I'm also told that when women vote, Democrats win. Women have a special way of just getting it done. Yeah, we do. We do. We have a special way of just getting it done. And women will believe when nobody else will believe. And women will fight, not with fists, but women will fight with our most valuable weapon. You know what that is? That's good. Give a woman something worth, oh yeah, I've got to laugh in the front row. You're thinking, oh yeah, that's sure enough the truth. Give a woman something that she believes in, and she will see it through, and no obstacle will stand in her way. When women act, good things happen. I want to tell you about a little woman that none of you met, but I want to talk about my mother for just a moment. And some of you may have already heard this story, but I say it as a way of honoring her, because I know without a doubt that I would not be where I am and have the successes that I've had without her. You've already heard that I was born and raised in Jacksonville. Yes, I am the youngest of 7 children. My mother worked as a maid. If you've seen the movie, The Help. Yeah, I know we've all seen it, read the book. That was my mom. My mother used to do what we refer to as day's work. I know many of you in the room know exactly what I'm talking about. It means she cleaned a different house for a different family every day. My father was a janitor. He was a maintenance man. He drove a tram for a retirement home for a while. He was a gardener. He had a remarkable ability to make things grow, no matter how bad a shape that plant was in, or that garden was in. My dad could just touch it. He had the Midas touch. But what I remember most of all, my dad used to go to work 7 days a week. Not 3, not 4, but 7. 7 days a week to make ends meet for our family. My mom cleaned houses, and my dad did whatever he could do. But you know what? My parents taught me, especially my mother, that, you know, the world really doesn't owe you anything. She stood about this tall. But I wouldn't mess with her today if she was still alive, because she was something else. But she said the world really doesn't owe you anything. You get out and you work hard. And she said if you work hard and play by the rules, then you too can live the American dream. And we love to talk about the American dream. I've heard about it all of my life. And I remember growing up, didn't fully understand what they were talking about, the American dream. But I later learned. When I graduated from high school and it was time for me to go to college, my mother said, you're going to college. And I remember I grew up poor. We lived in a 2-bedroom wood frame house that sometimes leaned. But my mother said, you're going to college because you're too smart to stay home. We packed up the car and they took me up to Tallahassee, to Florida State University. Now, if there are any Gators in the room, if you're thinking about writing a check to my campaign, please do it now before I finish talking about the Seminole, because I am a Seminole, and I'm proud of that. But they took me up to Florida State University and left me and said, God will make a way. And you know what? I believed them. And 4 years later, I don't know quite yet how I did it, but I graduated with a degree in criminal justice. My mother was a little powerhouse, but she told me, you can do anything you want to do, and you can be anything you want to be. When I was appointed chief of police in 2007, first woman, I was appointed when crime was at an all-time high. Now, wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? I was appointed when crime was at an all-time high. I said, okay, here we go. I had to laugh to myself for just a minute. Because I said, okay, I'm the first woman, crime's at an all-time high. If I don't do well, what are they going to say? Well, see, we told you. We told you. We put a woman in charge of those 1,000 people at that agency. What do you expect? But you know what? Instead of focusing on the crisis, I decided to focus on the opportunity. Because you know what? Women are about just getting it done. And at the end of my tenure as chief, we did have a 40% reduction in violent crime and a 54% reduction in our homicides. When women act, good things happen. I made the decision to retire in 2010. I made that decision to retire last year because I had accomplished the goals that I set out to accomplish. But as we talk about Women's History Month and we look back, and we know that we have many obstacles today. Yeah, 2012, we have some challenges ahead. But since we're celebrating Women's History Month, let's pause for just a moment and take a short journey back into history and look at some phenomenal women who were able to do some phenomenal things against the odds. We think we have it tough today. But is there anybody in the room who can tell me how in the 1800s, not Rosa Parks, but Harriet Tubman was able to lead 750 slaves to freedom when she was a slave herself? Now, tell me, how did she do it? And while you're thinking about that, tell me, how did Susan B. Anthony lead a whole nation in the early 1900s to make it so women would have the right to vote? She fought for women's rights for 50 years. Never had the opportunity to vote herself, but we thank God for her because she certainly paved the way for all of us. And as we go down the list and call the roll, let's think about in 1972, when Shirley Chisholm had the audacity to run for president of the United States of America. Now, can somebody please tell me what was wrong with her? And you know, when she tells her story, she talks about how when she would take the podium, let's go back to 72, it really wasn't that long ago, was it? In 1972, she talked about when she would take the podium, people would laugh and they would snicker. And she could see them whispering to each other and making jokes about her. And you know what she said, though? She said of her two obstacles, being black and being female, being a woman put more obstacles in her path than being black. She also said that she always faced more discrimination. Kind of hard to believe, though, but it's true. She always faced more discrimination being a woman than being black. And no, Shirley Chisholm did not win. But she certainly put the country on notice that one day a woman will win.